screen starts glowing and the film starts rolling. You wanna be knowing what you might be in for. So give the show a listen and find out what you're missing. Put yourself in position for the easy good score.
Hey listeners, welcome to the 227th episode of The Goods, a film podcast. I am here with Brian today in the midst of spooky season, mid-October. We're just in the guts of it, Brian.
October proper.
So yesterday, Brian, I did something interesting. At about 9 a.m., I drove over to the elementary school and I got on a bus with about 90 kindergartners, and we drove about 50 minutes to a farm where there's a pumpkin patch. Not exactly pleasant being stuck in a bus with 5-year-olds for 50 minutes when they're just like amped with energy, but it was fun. And the thing that made me think of it just now was I used the phrase the guts of it, and apparently that's actually what farmers call the insides of the pumpkin. They call it the guts of the pumpkin because we learned about the different parts of the pumpkin and the life cycle of the pumpkin. I thought that was kind of funny. It's like just a very informal term, but that's what they use.
That sounds great. Always down to go to a pumpkin patch. Makes it for a good field trip.
Yeah, and I got to know my younger daughter's friends and some of their parents, and got to see the kindergarten teachers and stuff, and man, it's just like, it's everything with kindergartners is just controlled chaos. It's like containing the chaos and trying to point it in the right direction. It's like, it makes me think of that show Recess with the kindergartners who are just wild people. It's like not totally off base, I gotta say.
That's funny.
So, Brian, you know this, I know this. We have a semi-tradition here on The Goods during spooky season where I will pick a teen horror movie, usually like what I call the post-Scream, the Scream-alikes. I don't know. Maybe there's a name for this little wave of. So it started with Scream, and then I've done, I think, one almost every year.
Yeah, so I guess the time window is important, but what really ties them together to me is the setting, which is these are like back-to-school horror movies. Specifically, they're all high schools. So, yes, teen horror, teen, like, slasher, some of them. But it seems fitting this time of year, because it's back to school season, as well as Halloween.
Right, it doubles up, you know? Lots of scary stuff happening. It's kind of the flip side of what I was talking about in the Varsity Blues episode, where you're kind of romantic because there's all this possibility for change, but that's also, like, scary. You know?
Overlapping but incompatible frames of reference. But yeah, I was feeling my years this week. We've been doing this for 5 years. So what? We watched The Craft, we watched Idle Hands. What else?
The Faculty. So I think, yeah, this is year 5. Wait a second. Hold on, Brian.
This is the 5 full years, so this is our 6th.
This is our 6th. Yeah. So we did Scream. Did I do that the first year? I think I might have done it. Or was that 2021?
Well, it was early on. We watched all the Screams up to that point. Then we checked back in for Scream 5. Have not covered Scream 6. Was there a Scream 7 yet? Or is that still... That's the one that's like in development hell, right?
Yeah, that one, development hell is right. Double layers, triple layers to that phrase. Because it was like in progress. It was going to kind of cap off a trilogy by this team. They're called Radio Silence. There's 2 directors that get credit because you can't credit a collective, according to the Directors Guild. So there's 2 guys who always get credited as the directors when Radio Silence makes it. And they made Scream 5, which was just called Scream. And then they made Scream 6, which was actually called Scream 6. So we went Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, Scream, Scream 6, and then they were going to make Scream 7. I think, from what I read, the idea was they were going to cap it off. And Melissa Barrera, who is one of, I think that's her name, she was one of the two co-stars, or I guess there was like 4 co-stars, but like one of the 2 main female co-stars, along with, what's her name? The one Wednesday, Jenna Ortega. So Melissa Barrera was outspoken about Palestine and Gaza. And that is always a very politically sensitive topic. And in particular, like at the time that it came out, it was a bold statement. I think the winds have changed a little bit. And, you know, I have feelings about this, but like this isn't a politics podcast. And let's say I was sympathetic and I thought it was ridiculous that she got as much hate as she did. And like, same with the actress who played Snow White.
Ziegler.
Yeah. Like there was this monstrous backlash to what boils down to like, can't we just all be friends and peaceful and not have war and violence and slaughter? Because anyways, it's starting to turn into a politics podcast. So anyways, Melissa Barrera got tons of heat after she made some comments. And then I don't know how much of it is official and how much of it is through the grapevine, but she basically got fired because of it from Scream 7. And then Jenna Ortega quit. And then Radio Silence quit. And so then it was like, okay, I guess there's no Scream 7. But then other people got brought on, including Sydney is going to come back, apparently. She's going to be involved.
And that's Neve Campbell, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Neve Campbell. So roundabout way of saying, yes, there is going to be a Scream 7 eventually.
Yeah.
But it's like mired in controversy and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like not that Scream 7.
Right.
Yeah. But no, that makes me think the way it went, Scream 4, Scream 6 is like Saw went up to Saw 7, then it was Jigsaw, then it was Spiral, then it was Saw 10.
I mean, the worst of all time. You're never going to top Halloween as far as I'm concerned. Because you have 3 movies called Halloween in the Halloween series. And by the way, the third of those Halloweens is a direct sequel to Halloween, the first of those Halloweens. So you have Halloween, but it's also the second time that they've done a sequel to that first Halloween. So it's like an alternate timeline to Halloween 2, the first Halloween 2, not the second Halloween 2. But then they made a Halloween 3 that was not actually a Halloween 3. But then Halloween 4, 5, and 6 were sequels to the first Halloween 2. But then also they redid that. So you ditched 4, 5, and 6, and you got Halloween H2O 20 years later. It's just like you got to like do a spiderweb like chart to understand all of it. And I tried to explain to my wife the other day, and her eyes glazed over. It's just like it's utterly ridiculous nerd shit to talk about the continuity of the Halloween movies. And I've been getting an appreciation for the Friday the 13th ones, because the funniest thing about that is like the Friday the 13th
number 4 was the final Friday.
Well, that one was good. You're right. That actually might take the cake. The final chapter was number 4. And then 11 months later, they released another one. They released 5. Okay, whatever.
A New Beginning.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
But when they made Friday the 13th 9, 10, and 11, it was like this complicated franchise licensing agreement where they could make Friday the 13th movies, but they couldn't call it Friday the 13th. What are you doing then? What's going on here? So it's Jason Goes to Hell is one of them. The Final Friday. Okay, I guess he got around calling it Friday the 13th by calling it The Final Friday. Then Jason X. Then Freddy versus Jason. So no Friday the 13th among parts 9, 10, and 11, despite generally being regarded as the movies in that series. So we've gone afield here, Brian, but we are here to talk a teen horror movie.
Yes. So what did we watch this time?
It's called Disturbing Behavior. And I had never heard of this until it showed up on like a list of, here are some movies that are kind of like movies you've watched, feature on Letterboxd. Or it might have been like I had one of them up and here's movies like this. And I was like, Disturbing Behavior. Kind of a crappy poster, but like it's given the vibe of teen horror. And so I clicked on it, and it stars Katie Holmes, James Marsden, and Nick Stahl, who I don't really know, but he kind of looked familiar. I was trying to figure out if I knew him from anything else. He was in Sin City, which I think was probably where I recognized him, but he's been in a lot of different stuff through the years.
I felt like I recognized him too, but I couldn't tell from what, so maybe I don't.
Have you seen Terminator 3? He's apparently in that.
Nope.
So, okay. So, what about you, Brian? Had you ever heard of this one?
No, and I was going to ask how this came on your radar, so now we know. It has a lot in common with The Faculty, which was also 1998, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's because it's not really a slasher. It's like a conspiracy thriller.
It's like a brainwashing people swap movie.
So, I haven't seen much X-Files, Brian. The guy who directed this, his name is David Nutter. And I learned a lot about him this week reading up on this. Really interesting guy. So he's mainly known as a TV director. And for like quarter century now, he's actually more than that, honestly. He's been considered like among the premier genre TV directors. So he doesn't really do dramas or comedy. He does like horror, action, sci-fi stuff. And he did a lot of X-Files. That was kind of his claim to fame, was he made some of the better X-Files. But then he started getting this reputation. He made a couple of Hollywood movies. And then he kind of developed this niche of genre TV shows would bring him in to either make their pilot, as good as they could, or to like make big episodes, like capstone episodes where they needed like an expert touch. And so like he made some of the best Game of Thrones episodes he directed. He did, if you like go to his Wikipedia page, it's got a list of TV shows where he got brought in to make the pilot. He wasn't like the creator, but they're like, we need a guy to make the pilot so that like this has got legs, this has got something to it. So Roswell, he talked about it a lot in the commentary. I listened to the director's commentary. This one called Millennium, I think he might have done a couple episodes on that too. I wasn't familiar with that one. He also did Supernatural. He did the pilot. He did Smallville, the Superman show from 2001. He did some of the superhero shows, Arrow and The Flash. He did their pilots. The Terminator TV show, Sarah Connor Chronicles, he did the pilot. And so he again, he's kind of this TV director. And I think this does sort of feel a little bit like a really high budget TV episode sometimes.
Yes, I could feel the X-Files connections. Actually, So earlier this year, I watched Final Destination, the whole series. I just binged it because the new one came out, Bloodlines, which is like Final Destination 6. That's another one with funny titles. But anyway, I had seen the first one before, back in the day, but I hadn't seen any of the others until this year. But the first one, Final Destination, actually started as an X-Files spec script. And it got enough buzz, it got enough hype that they said, let's actually just make this its own feature that's not tied to the X-Files. But in this movie that we're here for this week, Disturbing Behavior, so it's got this episode director, Nutter, and it has the composer Mark Snow, who wrote the X-Files theme and did music for the X-Files. And the music in this movie is like a rinky-tink ripoff of Tubular Bells from The Exorcist. It's like got chimes.
I thought the score was one of the weakest parts of the movie, to be honest.
No, I was not very high on many production aspects of this film.
Huh, interesting. Uh, I imagine I'll be coming in ultimately a little bit warmer than you, just based off the respective comments that we have made this far.
Yes.
But I guess we'll see. I have a curveball for a second, Brian.
Okay.
So I have this friend that I've made. I actually, it's kind of weird. A friend followed him on Letterboxd. I followed him on Letterboxd when I saw some of his reviews. And then I started commenting on his Letterboxd reviews, and he started commenting on mine. And then I left in a comment my email address, and we've been swapping emails. I might have mentioned him on the pod before. I'll mention him again. His name is Mitch. So he's also been on the Goods Discord recently. He's been listening to some of our back episodes. Really kind, interesting guy. He recently started his own movie podcast called, I think it's the Movie Call podcast. And the premise is each episode is pretty short, between 10 and 15 minutes. A couple have been like 20 minutes. But he's been doing 3, 4, 5 of them a week. And he just calls his friend and they record the call. And every morning, apparently, they talk about movies. And because it's just a conversation between friends, kind of like this, it has less structure than this. But they don't like come in with like, let's talk about this movie. They just kind of talk about whatever they've been watching. So it's very conversational in a way, even more than our pod is, Brian. And he recently had an episode where he talked about, it was actually a span of a couple episodes. That's another thing, is because they're so short and they're every day, conversations kind of continue from episode to episode. And he spoke about the movie Halloween, the original, but also just horror in general, and how he hasn't seen a lot of like the classic horror movies. And when he was speaking about his feelings towards horror as a genre, I actually thought of like myself circa before the start of this pod, and how like I didn't like horror movies. And in some ways, I don't know, I feel like I've tricked myself into liking them. It's like I've talked myself into their value, you know, and like what's interesting about them. So I have articulated some thoughts, but let me ask you, Brian, why horror movies? When you describe what is interesting to you about horror movies, what is it?
So, geez, I should have prepared some notes ahead of time, but I guess part of it is, so speaking as somebody who has recently gone through a film school program, people who make movies, often they do it, I guess, out of a desire to be like self-therapy. But to many people, that means recreating the events of your own life. Just like beat for beat, true to reality, like autobiographical. The meme in one of the movie groups I'm in, filmmaker groups, is, oh, every student film starts with somebody waking up in bed, hitting their alarm clock. I've never made a movie like that. I will never make a movie like that. But I have helped on so many student film sets where the story is just, I'm in school and I'm depressed, and I take medication, and I live in an apartment. And it's like, God damn it. We're here to create. We're here to create, like to make a world. Okay? It doesn't have to be your world. We can expound and embellish, and we can use movie magic to create things that are not one-to-one with reality, that are not mired in whatever issues of day-to-day that we have. We can imagine beyond that. So that is why I like genre stuff. That's why I try to reach beyond. And so horror is one vein of that. And I'm sure you could get real psychological with it, that you've used the word transgressive before. And I think that certainly applies with things like we talked last week, Mohica Marins and Coffin Joe, where it's like a place specifically to unleash the id in maybe some ooky ways. And there could be something to that. But there are different factors, I think. And maybe different people are drawn to the genre for different reasons. But I do think, for me, it's a place where you're going to see things that you won't see other places. Like, Harry Met Sally had no axe murders or revenants or anything like that, or haunted dolls, or monkeys gone rogue. It was very pat. It was true to life. So it did not get an 8 from me like it got from Colton and Dan.
But I guess somebody falling in love could happen in the real world, but nobody falls in love exactly the same way as you see in a movie. So is it not appealing to you to see like these people you don't know fall in love and observe the cycle of love in that regard? Why is that less interesting than some silly fantasy nonsense?
There's something to that. I mean, I suppose love is as removed from my own experience as many aspects of fantasy. But I don't know. I gave it a 6. A 6 is very good. I think it's a very good film. But it's not necessarily the kind that I'm tossing on. And if we're talking what is the movie that you toss on and why, those are my thoughts.
Okay. I feel as if I've like found a scab and picked the scab and blood is starting to drip down my arm, and I want to know, why is there even a wound there in the first place? And I'm going to keep poking at it and looking at it, and probably the wound's going to get bigger, but I don't know.
Okay, good. Sounds horrific.
Yeah.
If we've got the opportunity to ooze, let's seize it.
Ooze the day. All right. I want to noodle on that again, not necessarily more right now, but maybe over the duration of the next 10 years of this podcast, Brian.
Sounds good.
Maybe we can even have Mitch on at some point.
Yeah, I like Mitch a lot. I was not aware of how he came across your radar, but I like that. That sounds organic. It sounds more organic than just, oh, these are people that we knew already and foisted our podcast on them.
Yeah. He's generous with his time and with his heart. So I've been grateful that he's listened to our pod and given us feedback and all that. So, yeah.
And he says funny things on the Discord, which is all I really ask for.
For sure. So, Disturbing Behavior, 1998. Definitely not the most famous of the Scream-like movies. In fact, like I said, I had never heard of this one until I saw it just like pop up on a list or a web page, and I clicked on it and I read about it. I was like, this sounds like something that could be part of my annual feature. And so here we are. And it kind of, I think it flopped financially. The film opened here. I'll quote Wikipedia. The film opened at number 7 at the North American box office. That's rough. Number 7.
I will say it's a great fit for this type of movie that we like to feature at this moment of the year.
Yes. It's got some interesting connections to stuff we've done, which we'll bring up. But also, it's just a kind of movie they were making at a time, and they don't make in quite the same way before or after. It's part of a wave. People get into waves. People watch every single film noir that came out from 1935 to 1952 or whatever the time span is. I don't actually know. I just made those years up. But like, they'll pick something and get super obsessive about it. And why not Scream and the teen horror spin-offs?
Right. And that's where I'll say, since we're on the subject kind of why do we watch horror movies and how many horror movies do we watch? And Dan has certainly bulked up in that regard over the last couple years, and I've always kind of been steeped in it. But we've talked in past episodes that people in the horror fandom tend to be like deep in, and they just watch every horror movie that comes out. They know the calendar of, oh, this is coming out, this month, and here's what's next month. And like, that's almost a job if you're doing that much for it. I'm not that dedicated to it. I'm not that involved. That's not me. But some people are. Like, Teddy is much closer to that than I am, of Buzzed On Movies.
Right, and I feel like Matt from Buzzed On Movies is like a textbook horror head. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, they could be. Both of them definitely watch a lot of horror movies and talk about it on the podcast.
Do you have a Shudder subscription?
I'm not subscribed to Shudder.
Yeah, I think we both have gotten savvy at finding movies that are not the ones that we have access to via our subscriptions, let's say.
Yes, I've been brought into the next plane. I've taken a step into a larger world.
The seven C's, some say. So the audiences didn't show up for Disturbing Behavior. Neither did the critics. Did you look up what the Rotten Tomatoes is on this, Brian?
What is it?
35%. They don't give out 35s on Rotten Tomatoes anymore, Brian. That's like just... You show up with 90 minutes of film in 2025 and you get a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes. You just don't see that number anymore. There's a lot of inflation on Rotten Tomatoes.
Interesting.
Particularly TV shows. It's like if you get anything less than a 90% as a TV show, you're doomed. Like that.
Really?
That's pretty uncommon. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what it is about TV show Rotten Tomatoes, but critics seem to be more generous to be like, yeah, this show's fine. Because that's really all Rotten Tomatoes is like what percent of people gave it above a passing grade, not like weighted average. Metacritic does the weighted average. Rotten Tomatoes, you could have 100% of people say, it's fine, and you get 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. And you could have 80% of people say, this movie is absolutely amazing, and 20% of critics say, not for me. And you'd get an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. But like to me, I'd be more interested in the latter of those, despite the lower score, you know?
Right.
So this one definitely did not leave a mark. And some of that, I think, has to do with the way that test audiences reacted to early screenings of this film and then the subsequent editing butchery that occurred to it. So this is a film that its fans will tell you we haven't seen the real version of this movie because the original cut was almost 2 hours. The one that we saw, Brian, 82 minutes is what my runtime said.
82 minutes, very slim. And I actually had read that too, that like a half hour gleaned out of this thing. And I was trying to imagine what that was based on what I saw. So you got the DVD, right?
I did. So I'm not an expert on like all the physical media lines, but I have one DVD from this company called MVD on their line Rewind collection. So it's a Blu-ray, and it's got, first of all, it's a beautiful Blu-ray. The transfer is terrific. I mean, you said there are elements of the production you didn't like. I just thought the photography, especially the nighttime photography, looked quite nice. And this was a terrific transfer. But also, it has a director's commentary track, which I listened to. It has about 20 minutes of deleted scenes. It doesn't have all of the footage that was cut, but it has about 20 minutes worth. And then interestingly, it has commentary for the deleted scenes. He talked about why he liked it. So like what he did, this director, is he basically got a say in the assembly of this Blu-ray. Is he said, here are the deleted scenes that I feel most would have contributed more into making this my vision of the story. And so it's something like 10 deleted scenes, some of which are just extended from the original, some of which were completely cut, and an entirely different ending too. So I have a little bit of insight into all of that. We can talk about that. So yeah, Disturbing Behavior, Brian. Shall we dive into it?
Let's do it. First off, that title, Disturbing Behavior. What would you expect a movie called Disturbing Behavior to be? Is this what you would expect?
Yeah, I don't like this title. If you're going to put disturbing in your title, I would expect your movie to be disturbing.
Right. I would think that would go with like a John Waters movie or something.
Yeah, or like a Terrifier. You know, it's like for the freaks only type of gory movie or like depraved movie. But this isn't that. And it's definitely like a play on... There's like lots of ironies in this movie. Like lots of... It's the opposite of what you expect. But like, I think Disturbing Behavior is kind of like a somewhat outdated almost psychological term for like a teen who's acting out. He's acting out with disturbing behavior. But like ultimately we see in this movie that the teens who you would think would be doing the disturbing behavior are not actually the ones doing the disturbing behavior, you know? But I think it's a swing and a miss of a title personally. So this movie opens with actually a really interesting composite shot of like, you kind of see that you're on a lake. It like pans down from the stars with like clearly artificially touched up stars, like beautiful bright night sky, down to this lake of this like landscape. And then you're like on a cliffside view and you see a parked car. And this is definitely a teen movie stereotype, like pulling off to the cliffside and hooking up in the backseat of the car.
Bury me at Makeout Creek.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think like what even other movies have I seen this in, but it's a lot. It's like actually more of a stereotype than I realized until I was like watching a whole bunch of movies the past couple of years, that like so many of these movies have a scene of like you pull off to the side of the road, you know, with the teen boy and the teen girl in the car.
Yeah, I think of the opening of Michael Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, that's a good one. And this is like kind of where you have the a little bit of the subversion. And I was actually thinking, have you ever seen any of the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I have not.
Okay. So the pilot, I don't remember exactly what the opening is, but it like does a thing where you think one person is going to be the bad guy in a hookup scene, and then the other person ends up being the bad guy. And this has that going. So you have kind of like a femme fatale. They use the word slut in this movie a couple of times. This teen woman who is scantily clad and like this dweeby looking guy, like class president looking guy, and she's like seducing him in the car. And so you're like, oh, she's like the sinister. This is like the woman who would get stabbed by Michael Myers, you know? And then the guy gets like this red glare in his eye and kills the woman. And then a cop shows up. He kills the cop. Another cop shows up and it's like, oh, come on, dude. Why'd you kill everybody? And then they drive off. But we see that this whole incident is witnessed by this stoner looking guy in a hoodie. And that's the actor Nick Stahl, who's going to be one of the kind of three protagonists of sorts of this film.
Right. So the like Letterman jacket, not exactly a jock. It's this group of elite students that we'll come to know is kind of complex. Anyway, the guy with the letter jacket like twists the girl's head off her shoulders, just like pop, super strength, kills her. Then this cop or this second cop shows up and shields him.
Yeah. And so, of course, you know what I'm thinking of right now, Brian.
I was thinking of Varsity Blues that we just watched.
Absolutely.
Where the cops, you know, are known to look the other way when the jocks act up, when Tweeter is driving around naked in a stolen cop car.
Right. It's the same vibe, but it's horror instead of raunchy football teen comedy, you know? It's like, oh, he gets in trouble. He's like a big shot. Now, it's not the football team here. It's this upper crust group. But because he's kind of part of this, like, culture and this sort of very, like, wasp-coated, clean cut, like, literally they all have tidy haircuts and they wear, like, Letterman jackets and blue sweaters.
Yeah, they're kind of the Socs from The Outsiders that we watched.
Oh, yeah, good call. Yeah. They are kind of like that. And so then the second scene of the movie is... Oh, by the way, I thought this was a really interesting first scene. It was like more complicated than it needed to be. It's got like these layers. So it's got like the night sky, and then you get this landscape, and then it like zooms out, and it's this car with these people, with these two teens in it. And then there's someone observing it. And then also this other cop shows up. It's got like all these weird moving parts, but I still felt it was pretty intuitive. It's like, I don't know. I felt like he was almost showing off that like he can compose a complicated scene and make it not feel too complicated. This director, David Nutter.
It does kind of play with your expectations of who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, for sure. Because you got this, this like peeping Tom guy who's introduced, and then it's, oh wait, that's actually the good character. The dude who's watching folks making out in a car.
Great point. I didn't point that out when I was describing it, but he's observing the scene, and yes, the vibe we get is like he comes here to use his binoculars and watch the kids hook up in the car,
Right, and it's called disturbing behavior, and it's a horror movie, and it's like, okay, well, something disturbing is going to happen. And he's creeping around the cars, man door, hook hand, car door, as they say.
Man, what is that?
There's a stupid creepypasta that's a version of the parking couple hears on the radio that a maniac escaped from a mental institution, and he's got a hook for a hand. And then one of the couple goes out to like look for help, and then the girl hears scratching on the side of the car, but she's afraid to open the door, and the next morning there was a hook stuck in the door. But there's a version of it where it's like all garbled in the text, and the punchline, the scary bit at the end, is man door, hook hand, car door. She looked out and man door, hook hand, car door. And there's a lot of dramatic readings.
I haven't seen that, but that sounds like something that would make me laugh. Quick tangent. This brewery, Dogfish Head, they have a line of restaurants that are their ale houses. So the name of those references is Dogfish Head Ale House. And I always tell my wife, it just sounds like you took 5 random words and glued them together. Dogfish Head Ale House. It's like, okay.
I really like the way you said it the first time, because I've always, I've read it as Dogfish Head, but the way you said Dogfish Head, it really changes the cadence. It's like a big ass car.
Dogfish Head Ale House. Square hat. Just like keep throwing words on there at the end. Can. Mailbox. I don't know. Start saying words, you'll get there eventually.
It's like Infinite Monkeys.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, the second scene of this movie. We haven't even gotten to the second scene. But the second scene is where we meet the real protagonist of the film. And this is played by James Marsden. Where did we most recently see James Marsden, Brian?
Well, I know he was in Enchanted. That's where we did most of our Marsden talk.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of. I don't think we've seen him in anything since then, but we talked a lot about Marsden there and how funny and excellent he is in Enchanted.
I looked it up. I guess he was 25 here, so not crazy old, but definitely looks old for a high school student.
He's got a jawline that screams, like male model, So in the director's commentary, David Nutter, the director, just over the moon about how great an actor and like delight to work with the entire cast is, but in particular James Marsden. He's like, this guy's got talent, and he's like, for someone as handsome as he is, he's got a real humility and like artistic streak. And it made me more appreciative even more appreciative of James Marsden. It made me want to like look up what's some stuff he's done besides what I've seen him in,
Maybe we'll cover the Sonic trilogy.
Yeah, because I do ultimately feel like he's been mostly cast as handsome guy, but I don't know. And yeah, so they're moving to this town in the second scene. They're like riding a ferry or something, and they're moving to this town, Cradle Bay, from Chicago. So his family had lived in Chicago, and they're kind of running away from as yet unspecified problems to Cradle Bay. And he also has a teen sister, like a younger teen sister. She's probably like 13 or something like that. Yeah, I completely agree. He looks like he's in his 20s here and not like he's a random high school senior, It's funny. We're eventually going to learn that his family's trauma, and it doesn't take too long for us to figure it out. His family's trauma is that his brother died, and we'll eventually learn died via suicide. And his brother, did you see who his brother was in these like real quick like flashback scenes, Brian?
No, I missed it. And I felt like brother stuff must have been one of the elements that wound up on the cutting room floor.
Absolutely. Yep. That was something that it's almost entirely eliminated in the theatrical cut. Like, what's the deal with the brother? And it's like here it's just like, oh, he's got demons. Like hand wave, he's got demons, you know. But there's a lot more to it in the deleted scenes that I want to talk a little bit about that too. But the guy who plays him is Ethan Embry, who I'm pretty sure that was the guy who starred in the Hands one. What's it called?
Idle Hands? I thought that was Devon Sawa.
Oh, you're right. But hold on, does he? What is? Okay, you're right. So he's definitely in that thing you do, which is of course the main thing I know him from. But is there anything else that he was in that we talked about?
Okay, so in That Thing You Do, is he the John Lennon guy? The writer who is like more serious than the other ones?
No, he's the bassist who never gets a name.
Oh, the one who never gets a name. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, the only movies that he's in that I've logged are no horror movies other than this. So he's in That Thing You Do. He's in Can't Hardly Wait. He stars in, which is a teen comedy that I'm absolutely going to pick at some point, and you're not going to like it.
Okay.
He was also in The First Man, the Damien Chazelle space movie, which is quite good.
That's funny. And I think at some point you confirmed that Damien Chazelle is indeed a That Thing You Do fan. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. That was in the La La Land commentary. So anyways, because it's like real, and especially in the theatrical cut, we get a little bit more of it in the deleted scenes, but you get like 100, if even, total frames of Ethan Embry on screen. I was like, it's the guy that I know from That Thing You Do and other stuff. I don't know why I thought he was in the horror movies. I guess I just got him mixed up with Devon Sawa. But yeah, I like Ethan Embry. But this town, this Cradle Bay. So we talked a little bit about they're called the Blue Ribbons. So this is like this, it's kind of like an FBLA type thing. It's like an after school group or like almost a church group or something like that. So we kind of had some clubs growing up, Brian, but like it wasn't really associated with cliques, really. I mean, maybe a little bit, like there were band kids and there were kids who were athletic and more popular, but like we were at a weird high school, so like we didn't have traditional cliques.
Right. Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit more, and you've done a good job starting out, so I guess I'll just let you keep rolling. Because early on in this film, James Marsden gets to the new school, and that guy that we saw at the start of the movie watching the cars is this stoner dude. And what's his name? Gavin? But he like gives Marsden a crash course in the cliques that are important at the school. And it's basically stick to the status quo from High School Musical.
Yeah, but I thought the scene was so good and so funny because it's not just here's the cliques, but it's like for every clique, we're going to give you like 10 puns about it. And it just like all flowed together so well. So I thought this scene where they introduced the cliques, they're also not like exactly the normal cliques that you get in a teen movie. It's not like just the jocks and the nerds, although I think there is a nerds one. But there's like the gearheads and then, the blue ribbons and I guess they're the stoners. So maybe it's mostly the cliques you usually get, but something about it felt a little different than normal.
Yeah, and so the two stoner guys, so Gavin's got a friend who's with him who's like this pale ghoul man. And so, yes, they're describing the cliques, and each one ends with the stoner friend making some joke about that each group is freaks of some type, that they're all freaks in their own way. And they self-select and self-group based on what they're interested in. But it's like the nerds, the greasers with the cars, the skaters, and the like preps or socias that are these blue ribbons that I would guess also contain the jocks. They don't really talk much about sports, but there's no like separate group that's called the jocks. So I think the jocks are in that circle.
I think that's probably fair, yeah.
And then what? And each one is like freaks in sneaks, freaks in something, and then
Freaks who fix leaks. Like that's the
those are the car people.
Yeah.
And then it ends with these two stoner observer friends, and there's a girl stoner as well. They're like outside that, even though they have a group that's their group, but they say they're the freaks all week. Like the freakiest freaks.
And I thought that was a good payoff on this scene. And he there's some Shakespeare allusion if you listen carefully to, he's twisting some well-known Shakespeare quotes in there. And it's just got a rhythm to it. And it's really well delivered by this guy. It's the one that we saw in the opening scene. I think, what was the actor's name? Nick Stahl. He delivers this so well. So yeah, let's introduce the third main character, who's also the outsider. And it is played by Katie Holmes, who we have talked about before a couple of times. We talked about Pieces of April, and then one of the President's Daughter movies. I will never remember which one is which.
Right. First Daughter from 2004.
So is that the one where we don't know at the start that her love interest is actually a secret agent?
Oh gosh. Okay, I don't remember. Because Chasing Liberty and First Daughter both have that twist. And one, we know early on that the boyfriend she's with is secretly working for the president as a Secret Service guy. I can't even remember.
Go listen to that episode, or don't, listeners. Your choice. Two paths before you. So yeah, we learn a little bit more about this. You call them the Socias. They all wear these blue Letterman jackets called the Blue Ribbons, and they definitely seem more and more cultish as the movie goes along, until it's basically, that's the premise of the movie, is oh wait, this is a cult with other elements involved here. But there's other stuff going on here too. It's because they're the goody two shoes, but they've got kind of this repressed angst that being a goody two shoes kind of scrubs out. And so the people who are more outsiders, so we have Katie Holmes in a leather jacket showing her midriff. By the way, she gets this very memorable, and I don't need to go horny on Maine here. Very memorable character introduction where she's dancing on a truck, the back of a pickup truck, when we first witness her, kind of from James Marsden's character's gaze too, because she's gonna end up being a romantic interest as well. And the funny story from the director's commentary is when they were prepping this, one of the producers said, "Hey, we really want to play up that we have the Dawson's Creek girl here, and that she's a pretty young thing. So give her a good character introduction." He said, "Oh, I'll give you one, all right." And she's dancing on top of a truck. So
yeah, no, in the President movie, we got horny on Maine a little bit about Katie Holmes, that she's got a little bit of a baby face.
Yeah,
but then she's attractive. She is.
Right. And he also, so this director's commentary was kind of interesting. He talked a lot about how he cast people and how he brought in crew and how he kind of made some of his decisions. And it really emphasized that he's tuned in to the world of TV shows being made, because all of it was related to someone he had worked with on a TV show, or someone that he had worked with on a TV show had said, "This person's great, you need to work with them someday," and all sorts of stuff like that. And he said when he was in pre-production for this movie, he was working on a different show, and either it was he was looking at audition tapes, or he was actually recording something else. But what they were doing is there were VHSs sitting around the studio that he was at, and he was like gonna record something on a VHS, like record over something else. And he plugged in a VHS, and he was like having trouble getting the recording to work right. And so it was just playing what was on, and it was what he thought was edited footage from a Dawson's Creek episode. And he's like, wow, they really picked a great shot of Katie Holmes for this. But then it turned out it was just like dailies or like unedited dailies. I don't know exactly what dailies are, Brian. You could maybe enlighten us. But it was like not even edited footage. And it was just like the camera that had been locked on Katie Holmes. And she was like acting the crap out of this stuff that wasn't even like the center of the episode. And he said that was the moment that he was like, okay, she would actually be great because like she's got more depth than you might think from someone who's just on a teen drama on TV.
Do you want to talk about what dailies are?
Give us the 15-second overview.
Yeah, not exactly super important, but you shoot your footage for the day, and then at least how it used to work and may still work on big sets is that they will like rush that to processing, because if you're shooting on film, you actually have to like develop the film. And then you do that, and then the people who make the important decisions, like the producers and ideally I would think the director, watch the dailies at the end of the day to say, okay, this is what we generated, this is what we got, and what can we actually work with, and what do we prioritize getting the next day that we shoot. That's what dailies are. And nowadays, that more of it is digital, more of it is instantaneous. I think it's less of a process, but I mean, you still review what you get.
The more you know .jpg. And so there's kind of this outsider dynamic for the James Marsden character Steve is drawn to for the Nick Stahl character and the Katie Holmes character. And yeah, this other goony looking fella, very pale. The character's name is UV, like the two letters UV. And I don't quite know.
Oh, I just got it. It's because he's super pale, so I guess he's not getting ultraviolet light. He's not getting sunlight.
That makes sense. I should have placed that. You're right.
I didn't understand it while I was watching either.
One thing the director said is, for whatever reason, whenever he talks to fans about this movie, they always say, I love the guy who played UV. That character is so great. So for that, he's a fan favorite, Brian. UV. There you go. I'm not sure I would have placed that, but he has a few funny moments. So this group, the Blue Ribbons, one thing like that we learn about them is like it's the way that kids get involved is like their parents join a group. So we think it's like a PTA meeting, but it's really like a secret meeting for like getting the Blue Ribbons in, you know, or like who are we going to recruit to be the next Blue Ribbons? And kind of like the inciting incident, I guess, beyond Steve moving to town is the Blue Ribbons target the Nick Stahl character, Gavin. And Gavin, by the way, now that I'm saying the character name, our friend Gavin, who's appeared on the pod, it was on the most recent episode, he's sensitive about people using the name Gavin in shows. He doesn't like it. He calls it bad Gavin representation. Actually, incidentally, our friend Colton is the same way. He's sensitive about characters named Colton or actors named Colton.
Interesting. I don't know if I've seen a Colton movie.
There's probably some. I'll think about it.
So, I mean, I guess we can decide at the end, was this good or bad Gavin representation? I think this Gavin does well.
I think he's an interesting character and like a well-formed character. And I suspect that Gavin would file this under bad Gavin representation. That's just my hunch. Because he's got some edges to him.
Okay. I'm against Y Bryans. Brian with a Y in.
Okay, it's got to be an I for you.
It's got to be Brian with an I in.
Okay.
There's nothing further to that thought.
Yeah. I have no Dan opinions. There's a Dan at work, and I've now worked with him for I can't believe it's almost been this long. It'll be coming up on, it's more than 9 years now I've worked with him, which seems crazy. but he's a little bit older than me, and we always jockey about who's the main Dan on the team. Like if you say, hey, it's Dan, which Dan are you talking about? And which one's the other Dan? Who's Dan 1? Who's Dan 2? A running joke for 9 years now. No firm answers.
It hasn't been decided yet. You're still jockeying.
Yeah, there can be only one. We make a lot of Highlander jokes too. But yeah, so they realize that the next target of the joining the Blue Ribbons is going to be Gavin. And at this point, Gavin believes that like they're not just like weird and cultish, but they are like literally brainwashing people. Like full on evil conspiracy, not just weird. Whereas like everybody else is like, man, the Blue Ribbons, they're kind of cultish, aren't they? They're kind of weird. Like they're insular and they don't like outsiders, but like they're not on the same wavelength of like, this is a full on evil conspiracy. So I think some of that is like playing up this idea that Gavin, you know, he does drugs. He's into disturbing behavior. He is more prone to conspiracy thinking, you know?
Yeah. So maybe this gives away too much. I thought it was weird, the message of the Blue Ribbons, like how they're presented in the film. It's complicated in a way that I don't think they meant it to be complicated, or it just muddies the message I think they're trying to create, because I would think they were saying, oh, these elitist kids who run the world, they're like they're like the Illuminati or something, and they pull all the strings because they're this elite class. But they're doing the pod people thing. They're trying to grow their ranks. They're like, over the course of the movie, they're trying to recruit people in and make them group members. So it is kind of like a cult. They're proselytizing. But I think of that as different from the way cool popular kids are in school. Like, I don't think of the cool popular archetype being like, come be cool and popular like us. They're trying to keep people out.
Well, but say it slightly differently, Brian. Say it with conformity. Like that's what it is it's not just like, hey, we're the inside group who control everything. It's everyone must conform to what we believe is good and normal. And anyone who doesn't do that is a dangerous outsider. And so you need to conform to what we say is good. And I think if you think about it from that lens, it makes a little more sense. Because I do see what you're saying. It's like you think about the popular kids and people want to get in on the popular group. You know, like that's what's stereotypical in high school movies. I wish I was popular. I wish I was with the in-group. But here, it's the opposite. The in-group wants to pull in these losers, make them part of their clique.
Yeah, it's like the Borg. They're assimilating.
Right. And basically, what happens is, so Gavin, again, he kind of realizes that he's next on the list, and he is like, I'm going to kill them all. And he's got a gun. And it's freaked me out because this complicates it, like you said. So like he's like the Columbine guy at this point. He's like, they think they're better than everyone.
And this being a year before Columbine, 1998.
Oh man, didn't think about that. I thought it was like intentionally invoking the trench coat stereotype, but it's not. It's preceding it. Oh my gosh. Huh. That plays even differently then. Yeah. Cause he's like, I have this gun. I'm gonna go kill them. These insiders who think they're better than everyone. They won't get me. And it's got like, yeah, dangerous energy. And like, you're like, this guy is unhinged. This guy is doing disturbing behavior, except we do learn that he's right. There is like full on brainwashing going on here. So let me talk a little bit about what's in the deleted scenes. I think now might be a good time to talk about it. So one is we get a lot more backstory for Steve, the James Marsden character. The main one being we get essentially this scene that's in the movie extended by like 5 minutes. So it's the scene where he and Katie Holmes are sitting on a ferry kind of talking about his past. And he, in the movie, in the theatrical edit, he just says, "My brother died and we moved here." And she's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry." And that's it. It's like, oh, he's got demons. Like, again, there's no detail to it. But the deleted scenes make this a lot more interesting. And it's got like more layers to it, because we learn that what happened to his brother is that his brother and his brother's girlfriend fell in love and were going to run away together. And I also wondered if it was doing the Outsiders thing, where like you take it to mean that it's like a pregnancy or something like that. Like there's something else there, but they were going to run away together. But basically the girlfriend's family got wind of it and prevented her from going. And like was like, "No, you need to get away from this sort of degenerate type. You need to be a good student. You need to stay at home. We need to correct your moral sin. You can't run away with this guy." But when the girlfriend didn't show up, the brother killed himself. Then the girlfriend escaped and got to the brother. And when she saw that he had killed himself, she also killed herself. And then it was Steve who went and found them both dead at the spot where they had died, almost like a Romeo and Juliet thing.
Wow. That sounds complicated. But I guess the idea being that Steve has guilt for what happened to his brother. Is that right?
That, and that he is already extra wary and cynical about forces that tell you must conform. Because the idea is that like the reason that his brother didn't run away to like a happier life that was what he truly wanted was because his brother's girlfriend's family like tried to force her to conform, basically.
Okay. So that does add to it, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I guess the way I said it was probably kind of confusing, but as soon as I saw the scene, it clicked into place for me. Like I was like, okay, this would have deepened Steve as a character, the James Marsden character, and like given us more context to why he's like just so troubled by this high school structure that he's stumbled into, because he's escaping this place where like he has these unresolved feelings about is it good to conform? Is it good to do your own thing? Is it good to be a part of it? Is it good to run away? And like it's shadowed by this death and this guilt that he feels. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, like, the popular people approached James Marsden pretty early on saying, "Hey, you should join us." And to me, that made sense because he looks like James Marsden.
Right. He's exactly who you'd expect to be in a group like that. He would be cast to be the guy that you would look at and be like, uh-oh, he's got douche countenance about him.
I just kept thinking, Giselle!
128th and Broadway.
So this is a little complicated and maybe too much of a rabbit hole, but I was going to say, oh, and you know, the principal, the insidious principal villain guy in this movie played the president in Chasing Liberty, but that's not correct. I thought it was the same actor. Now I'm reading up on these two actors who I thought were the same guy. One is named Mark Harmon and one is named Bruce Greenwood. So Mark Harmon is the star of NCIS and was the president in Chasing Liberty. Bruce Greenwood is the principal in this movie, but he was the president in National Treasure 2. But they look similar. I'm on one of those think they look the same websites, you know, where they post like Margot Robbie and Jamie Presley and the other one, Samara Weaving.
Right. Yeah, I would need to see their pictures side by side.
Well,
but I believe it.
I've got it ready for you here. I'm going to drop it in the chat and you can see what you think.
And it'll be on our Discord, which listeners can find at thegoodsfilmpodcast.com too. Okay, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, there you go.
Not the same person, but I think you could get there. I got there.
No, I can see why you would make that mistake based on this picture. They both have like a similar face shape, the kind of a pointedness about them.
Similar nose. They've both played presidents is my key point.
Playing president would be pretty cool. It would be a lot cooler than actually being president.
Less work. You don't have to worry as much about the effects of your decisions.
Yeah. You still get to make an inspiring speech, presumably. But what ends up happening is we leave the despondent Gavin character, and he's had been talking about how he's going to shoot up the blue ribbons. And then the next day we see him walking in the cafeteria, his hair all combed. He's washed his face, and now he looks like a blue ribbon. So he's undergone whatever this conversion is. And Steve is like, come on, dude, what are you doing? Like, how come you're acting like this? And then the blue ribbons beat up on him, and we think for a second Gavin will see the error of his ways, but then he just sucker punches him.
And before Gavin, they did this to one of the leather jacket car guys also.
Right. So it's like one by one, they're getting sucked into this hive.
Right. The car guy had a funny name. I want to remember what his name was. That was one thing I did like. This movie had some good character names.
Oh, is that Chug?
Oh, I don't think so. Dickie Atkinson.
Okay, that's a good name too.
It's like that. Yeah, that name made me laugh. And then the hot girl, the like temptress, the one who didn't get killed in the opening scene, and also is not Katie Holmes. The blonde girl who's in the blue ribbons. Her name is Lorna Longley.
That sounds like someone who'd be in a 1940s film, doesn't it?
Yeah, like played by Veronica Lake.
I thought she looked a lot like the actress in Twin Peaks, who's the victim in the first episode.
Right, Laura Palmer.
Yeah, they liked her enough that they kept pulling her in to more episodes for flashbacks, and then they made a movie around her, the Fire Walk with Me Twin Peaks spin-off movie. So anyways, Gavin has converted, and Steve is now like, all right, yeah, this ain't right, dog. Some for real is going on. And he ends up learning it from this janitor character, Brian. So what are your impressions of this janitor character?
This was yet another guy that I thought, I've seen this guy somewhere, and then went to his filmography and wasn't ringing any bells. But I think they call him Quasimodo at one point, that he's got some unspecified disability, it would seem. Really what it amounts to is a lot of tics and just quirky things that he does. He like lurches around and yells like he's got Tourette's or something.
Right.
And he's got it out for the rats, because he's the janitor. He like upkeeps the school, has all the keys, and creeps around fighting the rats.
So you know what this made me think of, I assume.
What did it make you think of?
Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide, where there's a key janitor character, and he's obsessed with taking down varmints. I forget what the varmint is in that show. And he like has a screw loose, but it's like sympathetic with the protagonists.
That's a good connection. I've only seen a handful of Ned's Declassified episodes, but I know some of the references, not all of them.
I think in that one, the janitor is played by Darren Norris, who is one of the Fairly Odd Parents voice actors. Like I think he does like 3 people on Fairly Odd Parents, and he apparently improvised a lot of stuff on the Ned's Declassified show.
Now that you mention it, I mean, I can definitely remember and picture that character.
Yeah, and so the second half of this movie. So at this point, we haven't really even had any horror. It's just been like weird small town vibes, you know? But other than, I guess, the opening scene when there's an actual couple of deaths. But this takes a turn around the halfway point, and like the blue ribbons start getting a little bit more unhinged. There's like very much there's this one guy who's like lusting after the Katie Holmes character, and he essentially sexually assaults her, playing up this like idea of like entitlement and higher social class, but also like repression going on in this blue ribbons group. Similarly, there's another like kind of mirror seduction to that, where the Lorna character tries to like, she kind of has this overwhelming urge when the James Marsden character is around and tries to seduce him. And that one ends with like, it's like the lust has like taken over her brain, and she like smashes her head into a mirror window, and like it's this blood spattered over her face, like a very striking image.
But she just keeps saying wrong, bad, wrong, bad. I don't know. I thought it was pretty silly.
Really? I thought it was striking.
What it made me think of, a lot of beats in this movie made me think of Varsity Blues. So this was the whipped cream bikini moment where the blonde girl is throwing herself at the new guy.
Yeah, I don't want your life, JVDB.
Right. Dawson.
Oh, another connection, because we got Katie Holmes here.
Well, it's kind of a connection. It's we have a Dawson's Creek actor in this one, and we had a Dawson's Creek actor in that one.
Well, yeah, that's a connection. Yeah.
I guess that's a connection. They're different actors, but it's, yes. I guess that counts.
Then it's like not very coherent, and I suspect some of it was edited out. I also suspect that it was never that coherent at all. But like the gist of it is that basically there's this guy, he's not even the principal. You call him the principal. I think he's actually like the school psychologist.
Okay. Yeah. He's credited on Wikipedia as Dr. someone. So I guess he's the counselor. But he's running the operation of this brain cult.
And he's like the head of the PTA almost. Like he's speaking.
See, that's why I thought he was the principal, because like the parents keep going to him.
Right. It's a reasonable, like, it's not very clear. They say it one scene and then it doesn't really come up again. But there is this element of him like basically, running like this psychological operation. It's like, is it just psyops or what is it? And what it comes down to is they have like these chips that they implant in eyes. So that's why whenever we see a blue ribbon character starting to go a little nutso, they get a red flash in their eyes. Because like the idea is this psychologist is introducing this sort of like mass conformity. The teens will behave. If you get this operation, you get a chip in your eye, and then you're going to be good. You're going to be a blue ribbon. You're going to be a success, basically. And kind of half-baked, I gotta say. He like the director in the commentary, he's like, oh, and I was so mad that they cut. Well, he didn't say mad. He was very diplomatic in the director's commentary, but you could tell that he was mad. They cut this thing that was more explanation of what his plan was. And then I watched the deleted scene, and it really wasn't that much more than like, this will be a way for teens to behave better in society. It was like, okay, well, that was kind of implicit anyways. It's like, this is probably something you want to scale up to like introduce your social mores to the world, you know?
Right.
Like, impose them upon everyone.
Yeah. And then kind of the twist or a wrinkle is Katie Holmes and James Marsden investigate his background, and they wind up at this insane asylum.
Right.
I was thinking of Gnome Mobile, the facility there, the like Gothic mansion, but he's tested this on other folks, messing in their brains with these control chips, and it's like the crazy jocks are the best result. They're the best he's done so far. Right,
but he's trying to get it right. What it actually had me thinking of, Brian, was Zootopia, wherein they're investigating like the carnivores going crazy. But this one's got you right, a little bit more like insanity to it. Not just like they're angry and violent, but that they're loony too.
Yeah.
Loony, I don't think that's one of like the psychologically endorsed terms these days.
It's one of those ones that's been discredited.
About 100 years ago, I think.
Can't blame as many things on the full moon anymore.
Witchcraft, more or less discredited at this point.
Yeah. There's a lot of good things on The Simpsons. We talk about The Simpsons all the time, but I really like the one where we see Ned Flanders' childhood and that he had to repress. The reason that he's the way that he is because he used to be this impulsive, like, hellion, but then therapy taught him to internalize and bottle up everything. But at one of the scenes with child Ned, like, climbing on a bookcase in the psychiatrist's office, and the psychiatrist says, "Be careful with those. Most of those books haven't been discredited yet."
One thing I didn't say yet, in general, this script, it's got like, I wouldn't call it like a great script qua script, like as a story, but a lot of the dialogue is sharp. And it's not like all-time great sharp dialogue, but it's got a lot of funny turns of phrases in it that I can see why this would have a little bit of like a cult following to it. Like, yeah, that Click introduction scene, for example. Or one thing is that Katie Holmes' character, when something's cool, she keeps saying razor. I was like, that's my favorite one of like they don't say the word cool, they say something else. Razor. That's the good one. I like that. It made me laugh every time she said it.
That was one of the top Letterboxd reviews, was like, Katie Holmes saying razor instead of cool was my awakening.
At one point, they kidnap James Marsden because he learns that he's next in the blue ribbons operation. So like now he's going to be converted to this blue ribbon cult thing with whatever the operation is. And actually, I like, to me that was sufficient. It's like, you're in a new town, you want your kid to succeed, but there's actually like this sort of complicated setup for it that got cut from the movie. So one is, okay, they're worried that James Marsden is going to go down a dark place like the brother did. So even that kind of makes sense once you like know a little bit more about the backstory. But also, remember when he takes Gavin's gun, when Gavin's like, I'm going to shoot everyone up. So in the deleted scenes, James Marsden takes the gun and hides it under his bed. And then the parents find it there. And they're like, uh-oh, we got to get him some help, and go to the school psychologist. And the school psychologist is like, oh, I know just the thing that'll help him. Let me get him involved in one of our programs. So there's like a little more setup to the James Marsden character being like the next target of the group. Okay,
that makes some sense. I did like one of the interactions between the parents and the counselor guy, this big bad Bruce Greenwood, not Harmon. The parents say, hey, so we've been noticing that while our kids aren't delinquents anymore, they are like really angry and kind of evil. And the psychiatrist has some explanation like, well, that's just because they're experiencing being better than everyone else for the first time.
We had the blue ribbon parents, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
that made me
funny.
laugh.
And this whole thing, yeah, it's very... I kept thinking of like, this is like an episode of Buffy or an episode of The X-Files, you know? It's like, it has a sort of, I don't even know exactly how you describe it, like a almost corniness to it, like they're really thinking about the small town vibe, but like it just doesn't feel very cinematic. But I don't know, just the vibe, the X-Files vibe. Not that I've seen much X-Files.
It feels like X-Files for sure, as someone who has seen a lot of X-Files. Dan, have you said yet that what causes them to snap and break out and go nuts is being horny? Did you say that?
I talked about the repression. So
okay.
It basically, that is when it kind of snaps. And that's what we learned from the opening scene. And then that kind of continues to play out. Like when the guy who's lusting after Katie Holmes, like, tries to rape her. And yeah, so like that's a kind of a recurring thing. But then there's another element to it too, which is that the janitor figures out his like one of his rat trapping devices has like a radio signal that messes with their brains if they have the chip. So that's like how they end up fighting back is like, okay, whenever they come near, I'm going to turn this thing on. And then they like grab their head like they're hearing a noise in their ears or something like that.
Like they're hearing Indian Love Call from Mars Attacks. Slim Whitman yodeling.
Good reference. But one thing I want to say is a lot of this movie takes place at night. And I'm not a cinematographer, so I can't say exactly like, oh, it's the key lighting or whatever. I don't know like what it is, but you can see what's going on. And I feel like if this was made in 2025, you wouldn't be able to see what's going on at night. How do they shoot it so you can actually follow the action? So it's got like a glow to it.
Yes, it's well lit, and almost all the movie, it seems, is at night. So that was certainly a choice that they made, and it works, you know? I have noticed nowadays so many shows, like even with the brightness cranked all the way up on my tablet, I have to like turn off the lights in the room to be able to see what's on the screen. It's like, why'd you make it so dark?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Game of Thrones was like notorious about that. And that's one that David Nutter worked on. Although I think the ones that he worked on are not the infamous ones, infamously dark ones.
It's unwatchable. Literally, I can't watch it. That's a line from James Rolfe I think of any time it's like that.
So in the climax of this movie, all of the blue ribbons are chasing after James Marsden and Katie Holmes, who, by the way, they become a couple, like right as they're about to go out to try to figure out what's going on. They kiss each other. Now, one interesting thing is a scene they cut that's in the deleted scenes is like this really heartfelt romantic connection from them. And then like a sex scene between them actually got cut. I was like, I can't believe that. Like, it feels like that would be something if you're trying to sell the movie, you would include, you know, but not just that, but it actually felt like it worked on developing the characters and like their connection, because Katie Holmes gets this bit too, to even like deepen the Varsity Blues connections. She has a monologue kind of like the one from the whipped cream bikini character where she's like, I'm worried I'm going to get stuck in this town. I don't know what I do to make it out of here because everybody is like so conformed and like reliant on their social status to rise up in life. And I'm just like a nobody here, but I don't want to be one of them. So like, what do I do to not just be that one girl that you kind of knew in town and never did anything with her life, you know? And when you have a little bit more of that character and then also the James Marsden character, that kind of deepens them a little bit in a way that they don't really have here. And it's like, well, yeah, they're the two attractive protagonists, so of course they're going to kind of fall together, you know? So I definitely feel like that would have enriched their connection a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so too. That on the one hand, there's not a lot of reasons that were given that they would end up together, but it makes sense enough in the cut that we've got that, hey, these are the two who aren't brainwashed yet, and the whole rest of the student body is like falling apart and going crazy. So yeah, fine. That's enough of a justification for me. And they're attracted to each other because they're both beautiful people.
Right. And yeah, at the end of this movie, they're beaten off now the blue ribbons are just unleashed. They're trying to capture them. And we get like a Clockwork Orange type thing of them trying to get their chip injected in their eye, but they escape just in time. And then they're running away from them. But the janitor cranks up the rat machine, whatever, that makes them go crazy. And then like kills all of them. Like this mass student body drives them off the ledge of a cliff. And the car falls and explodes.
There's even a moment, because he's like corralling them. It's like Pied Pipery, because he's going to drive them off a cliff with the car that's blasting the obnoxious signal. And there's even a pause where James Marsden calls him out. He's like, hey, do you need to kill all of these students? And he says yes. Yes, I've thought it through, and it's the only way.
Whatever you say, crazy janitor guy. Go ahead, mass murder our student body. The senior class. Killed by the janitor. That'll make you look heroic. So yeah, and then James Marsden, he confronts the principal, or the principal confronts him, and I think he ends up throwing the principal off the ledge too. Or not the principal. I'd made the same mistake you made.
The guy we've been talking about all this time.
The head honcho villain who's in charge of this mind control operation. There's some cool motorcycle work. James Marsden, for reasons that I didn't quite follow, is driving around a motorcycle for a while. I guess he's the protagonist. He can do cool stuff like that. But they end up surviving, both James Marsden and Katie Holmes. And then we get what felt maybe the most TV to me finale, which is like, so Gavin apparently survived, and he's still under the brainwash, and we get this little stinger of him like going to another school, a totally different school. By the way, one that happens to be black, which I like, a lot of black students, which if there was like a layer of commentary there, I didn't quite understand it.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know that it complicates very much, other than very few black people in this movie up until that point.
Yeah. And like notions of conformity and like imposing our view of like what is good, I guess.
Right. And because now Gavin is a teacher.
Right. So he's the only one who survived out of everyone. He's still got like the brain control thing. And the implication, even though this doesn't really make sense, because it's not like the people who have been turned into drones are actually doing the converting, you know? It's like the doctor.
Right, I guess you need the technology, right?
Yeah, so, but...
Can't just bite him like a zombie.
But this seems to be operating under that. But what I will let you know, Brian, is that this is not the ending that David Nutter wanted for the film.
What was the original Nutter intent?
When you put it that way. So there's another scene that's not a flash forward, but it still has Gavin surviving. And basically, instead of just James Marsden and Katie Holmes kissing and saying, we're going to go wherever we want to go, which, by the way, would have made so much more sense if you had learned the backstory of James Marsden's brother, because this is a mirror of it, except this time they actually escape. Like the oppression of conformity that's been imposed upon them. They managed to actually get the escape. But like at the end of that, instead of just going to this stinger scene, Gavin walks up on them and has a gun, and he's going to try to kill them the same way that he said he was going to kill the blue ribbons in the beginning. And they have like this tense back and forth where I really liked it, actually, because you hear Gavin talk about almost as if he's like back to his normal self. He's like halfway back to his normal self, about how like he never wanted to admit it, but he really wanted to be a part of something. He always identified as being an outsider, but it always made him feel lonely. And like he really wanted to be something more than that. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like that, like this idea that he has his own repression, like that, which is that he wished that he could have been part of this social group that is like upward mobility, conforming. And it was actually kind of hard for him to be an outsider in ways that he hadn't previously articulated. That's kind of interesting. And then there's like a thing where it looks like he's going to shoot James Marsden and Katie Holmes, but then UV shoots Gavin, the pale guy, and Gavin dies. But then he at the last minute, he's like, oh, I messed up. I'm sorry, guys. Go be good. And then he dies. So I think that would have been a better ending. Honestly, like, I really think the David Nutter, normally I'm anti director's cuts. I feel like editors are hired for a reason. Directors are hired for a reason, and you let editors do editing and you let directors do directing. And the tension therein results in better movies. Directors may want more, editors may want less, and the balance that you get is what usually makes the best film. Usually movies are not made better by being made longer, but sometimes they are. And I think this one would have been an example of a movie that would have been better if it was 20 minutes longer.
Yeah, at least from your description, those sound like important pieces to appreciate what's going on.
It would have enriched the characters and like it's particularly the protagonist and the Katie Holmes character. And I don't know, just the dynamic would have been a little bit more interesting and a little bit less just actiony, whatever. Like emphasize the characters a little bit more. Makes your story better usually. So, well, that's disturbing behavior, Brian.
Are you disturbed? Are you sufficiently disturbed?
Meh, a little. Halfway disturbed.
Rustled.
Yeah.
My Jimmy's rustled.
I think I'm ready to rate. What about you, Brian?
I'm ready.
So Is It Good is our signature section where we each give the movie a rating on our 8-point goodness scale, ranging from very not good, which is a 1 out of 8, to our masterpiece rating, toward a good, which is an 8 out of 8. Brian, disturbing behavior, 1998, teen science fiction psychological horror film, says Wikipedia. Directed by David Nutter. I didn't say the writer. The writer is Scott Rosenberg, who wrote Con Air. So there you go.
Okay.
He wrote a couple other things too. But is disturbing behavior good, Brian?
We've talked in the past that the mood you're in when you watch a movie rubs off on the movie in ways that may be unfair. For example, back in college, I watched X-Men First Class at the movie tavern, and they gave me a huge platter of barbecue that I didn't order. But they're like, hey, did you order the barbecue platter? I said no. And they said, well, do you want it? And then I had like a $25 plate of barbecue for free that I could eat while I watched a good superhero movie. Like, it's funny, it's got a good cast. I would give it a good rating anyway, but that made it like an 8 out of 8 film-going experience. Made it really, really good. And I had the opposite experience this week. I was not in a good mood when I watched this movie. And I think Dan said something similar when we were with Will and we talked it's not Warhammer. Warcraft movie. Dan was like, I basically didn't pay any attention to it. I didn't even give it the time of day. That was kind of the headspace I was in when I watched Disturbing Behavior. So I came in ready to give it a 2. I'm not going to give it a 2. I'm going to bump it up to a 3 because I didn't like it as much as any of these high school thriller spooky season picks that we've covered so far. I didn't like it as much as The Craft. I didn't like it as much as Idle Hands, certainly. Idle Hands has been my favorite. I really liked Idle Hands. Great practical effects in that. The hand that drops from the rafters and rips a guy's scalp off. You know, you got the corpses hidden in the scarecrows. The music I liked in Idle Hands. This wasn't Idle Hands. But the one I was just thinking of the whole time was The Faculty, which also involved body swaps. People getting brainwashed and replaced and coming back different from how they were before. And that it's all kind of masterminded by this insidious group. The Faculty came out the same year as this movie, 1998. And I just think that's the superior 1998 teen brainwashing thriller. Here, everything just felt cheaper. The cast, I mean, Marsden and Katie Holmes are big names, and they do a good performance. But in The Faculty, we just kept saying, whoa, that person's in the movie? We had, like, Elijah Wood. We had, who all was in that movie? It just kept going and going. It's like people coming out of the woodwork, and everybody was a well-known face. And also that had, like, aliens that you could see. It was a little more physically involved, a little bit more stuff they had to make, even if it was digital, than just blinking eyeball LEDs. I don't know. I just, like, because of the similarities, I was consistently underwhelmed by this one, and I will concede it may not be totally fair, because I was in a non-conducive headspace to enjoying the film. There are some things here, you're right, some good turns of phrase. The cast is not bad, and the photography is good. Shooting at night is not easy, and this was almost all at night. I'll scoot it into a 3 out of 8. What do we call 3? It's been a long time since I've given a 3.
Not good.
Not good. Okay, that seems fair.
Okay.
I gave The Craft a 4, and I liked The Craft more. Where are you at?
Thank you for that perceptive take on the film, Brian, and why you might have reacted to it. But also, I think most of what you're saying is fair about it. It's a very different movie from The Faculty, while at the same time being very similar. Because this one, I think particularly if you were to watch the deleted scenes, like I really wish there was like a official extended cut. I found and downloaded a unofficial extended cut. I didn't watch it. I watched the deleted scenes, both with and without the commentary. I watched the original movie twice, once with the commentary and once without. I think it would be a better movie in terms of what it's trying to do. I don't think it would be more horror-y. I think it would be more teen drama-y. But I think it would carve a little bit more of a niche for itself if it did that. Not just like a lower rate knockoff of, that kind of movie, like a worse version of The Faculty, which I think it doesn't really put its best foot forward here. But there's some really clever stuff in this that I really like, and it gets kind of weird. So first of all, it's just like layered in ironies where every time you expect this guy's going to be the bad guy. Like in a normal story, this guy would be the bad guy. Or this guy would be trouble, or this guy would have the wrong idea. It's like the opposite happens. So you have it's kind of Stepford Wivesy, where the blue ribbons who like should be the good guys, but they're like the bad guys. But like normally it's almost like reverse satanic panic. It's like this would be the group that is secretly a satanic cult, except they're like the waspy, popular, wholesome kids. But then also they have like this, repressed element. And if you view it from the lens of like, this is a movie about how if we use traditional values and try to only endorse these values without appreciating that people might want to do things their own way and live their own lives by their own values, and that conformity kind of dangerously sucks you in. But it still has like this kind of backwards layer. This is kind of what you were saying you didn't like, that I found kind of just like a curiosity. It was interesting that like it's not like they're keeping people out. It's like they're trying to bring people in. And so it's like it's kind of the reverse of what you expect. Oh, the popular kids, the outsiders are scrambling to be popular. Well, no, it's not that. And I don't know. I just found it interesting, and I was entertained throughout. I mean, the fact that it's short, I actually makes it so easy to watch. 82 minutes, it just breezes by, and the climax happens really fast. Although I do, like I said, it's kind of contradicting what I said earlier, that if it was longer, it'd be better. But I don't know. So I can't remember what I gave The Faculty, if it was a good or a very good.
You gave it a very good. I brought it up. I gave it a good.
Okay.
And we both gave The Craft a 4. Craft, a very different film, but that was just another one of these high school horror movies that we watched this week of October.
So I'm going to give Disturbing Behavior a 5 out of 8, a good. I think if it were the director's original vision, I would be in 6 territory, low 6, very good. But I'm just going to go ahead and, because we don't have that. That's not what the movie is. It's going to be a 5 out of 8. Because I still think it is entertaining. I still like Marsden and Katie Holmes. And I like this character, the Gavin character. I think he's really interesting. And he doesn't go the route that you expect it's going to go at the start. Kind of keeps you on edge. And it's not the best, like we're just going to dump rock songs from the radio into the soundtrack. Although there's one use of the song Flagpole Sitter by Harvey Danger, who's like, I don't know if it's a singer or a band. That's one of my favorite songs. I love this song. And when it showed up, it put me in a good mood. It's like, oh, yeah, that's good.
Could you hum a few bars of that one?
And then the chorus
yes.
goes,
Yes, I liked
I'm
that.
not sick and I'm not well.
Okay, that's the one that I thought you were talking about. I liked that scene. I know that song because it was in Weird Al Yankovic's Polka Remix in 1999.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's so hot because I'm in hell.
Yeah, great song.
Yeah, I like that one. Do you have 5 minutes to talk about cliques in our high school, Dan?
Yeah, I guess we didn't finish that thought, so why don't we do that? But let me just say, overall, not the best version of itself, but it's doing enough weird and interesting stuff, and I was entertained enough. 5 out of 8. So there you go.
Nice. So my clique thoughts is that it was certainly not as big a thing at our high school compared to what's portrayed in this movie or Stick to the Status Quo in High School Musical with the no, 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 where you got the walls up and you can't be more than one thing. They're mutually exclusive. There's no overlap in the Venn diagrams. Our high school was not like that. Probably most high schools are not totally like that. That's a contrivance of fiction. But I feel especially in our school, it was like, it's like they sliced off part of the population because we were the magnet nerd school. Like, what was the one that we watched a long time ago that it was by the young writer about going to the school that was supposed to be Stuyvesant in New York?
Oh, It's Kind of a Funny Story?
It's Kind of a Funny Story. Yes. So we went to our school and Stuyvesant get brought up in conversation together a lot because it's the same model where you test in and then you go there. So it's a certain type of people that wind up there. All of that to say, I don't remember a lot of different types of cliques at our school. I'd like to hear your perspective. But the one that I do remember was there were, of course, like student government, popular kids, and the student body was small enough that I knew all those people, which in a larger school or a more conventional school, I may not have known all those people. I was not one of those people, but I was on a positive terms with them. So they were not some alien other. And also, yesterday I found out that one of those kids, now, a 35-year-old like me, just won a MacArthur Genius Grant. So they, gave him $1 million to do what he's doing. Because he's a smart guy. A mover and a shaker. So that's me rambling, but that was my perspective on cliques in our school. Did you have any thoughts before we close it out entirely?
There were definitely more popular kids and less popular kids. And there was definitely, they weren't the cliques the jocks. Oh, the stoners. There was the band geeks, but that was us. And there were bubbles of people who were really tight and had similar interests, but I wouldn't type them, But I never really felt like anyone was socially prohibitive for me to be friends with. I don't know. I just felt like I kind of knew most people and got along with most people and wasn't really friends with all of them, but had positive experiences interacting with them, I guess. So I definitely did not feel like cliques were a major part of my life when I was in high school. And I wasn't a popular kid, so you might think I would be more observant of those cliques left me out. But I didn't feel that way. I just felt like I had my own space and other people had their own space, and that was that.
Yeah, same.
But anyways, Brian, been rambling, both you and I here. A good ramble is healing.
A productive ramble.
What are we going to be watching next week?
So, next week, I want to watch a movie that I saw for the first time when I was really, really young, 4 maybe or 5, and scared me. And I want you to think, Dan, between now and then, what's a movie that you saw early that scared you, and maybe not even that intentionally scary, but something that freaked you out? Because what I want to talk about is a movie from the 1960s starring Andy Griffith's sidekick, Don Knotts, in The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Have you heard of this one?
Ain't never heard of The Ghost of Mr. Chicken.
Okay. Well, it's from like 1966 or 1967 when he was striking out on his own. He left the Andy Griffith Show and he was trying to make a career as a movie star. And it was more misses than hits, but this is one that stuck with me. And so I want to talk The Ghost and Mr. Chicken.
The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Okay. Is Don Knotts either of the two title characters?
He's Mr. Chicken.
Okay, there we go. Well, that'll be fun, Brian. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Excited to continue spooky season and keep it rolling.
All right. Bye.